Hello everyone, welcome to Owen's Treats. For today's video, we're making strawberry lemon streusel muffins. Excuse me, a hard word to get out. So I found this one in recipe book. Words are hard for me today. Um, and it looked delicious. It had the two summer flavors that I love, anything with strawberry, anything with lemon. So I thought it'd be the perfect treat to make. So with that, let's get into our video. Let's go through our ingredients and let's go through the steps. Okay, so for all of our ingredients to make our strawberry lemon streusel muffins, you will need 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a half cup of white sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt or just a pinch, a half cup of milk, a half cup or 1 stick of butter or margarine melted, and then 1 egg, and then 1.5 cups of fresh strawberries that have been chopped. And I just kind of dice these up and cut the larger pieces into smaller ones. So it's more of a rough chop than like a fine dice. And then I have 1 teaspoon of grated lemon peel. And then for our streusel topping, we're going to need our 1/4 cup of granola. Anything you kind of see, it can be like rolled oats too, but granola preferably. And then a 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of all-purpose flour, and then we'll need an additional 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then 1 tablespoon of melted butter. So with all those ingredients, let's get into our first step into making our strawberry lemon streusel muffins. So for our first step, we're going to mix all of our dry ingredients together. So that starts with our 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, our 1/2 cup of sugar, our pinch of salt, our 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then our 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And now we're going to whisk this all together. And so now that your dry ingredients are nice and mixed together, we're going to set this off to the side as we work on our wet ingredients. So now we're going to work on our wet ingredients, which is really simple. It's just the milk, the butter, melted and then cooled to room temperature, and then our egg, which has also been at room temperature. And then with a whisk, we're going to whisk this all together until it's homogeneous. So now that we have our wet ingredients all nice and mixed together, we are going to combine our wet and dry and add in our add-ins as well. So for our next step, we're going to mix together our wet and our dry. So now we're going to do our wet into our dry, and I also have our additions here, which is our 1.5 cups of strawberries, as well as our lemon zest / peel we're going to get from our lemon. I am going to combine the wet into the dry, and then we're just going to mix it around halfway, or like just about mixed. Looks like it's starting to come together. And then now we're going to add in, when it gets this kind of consistency, you still see those flour lumps in there. We're going to add in our strawberries. And then we're going to add in our lemon. It likes to be around 1 teaspoon. And then an extra little hint and tip is I'm using the knife that I cut the strawberries with, and right where I kind of grated all the way down to the skin, and I cut like a small hole. And then I'm just going to do a little squeeze and get that 1 squirt of lemon juice. And that's all I need, just 1 squirt, because we don't want too much acidity. And then I'm actually going to switch out for a spatula instead of a whisk, just so I can fold the stuff into the batter. And then while I'm mixing this in, I have my oven preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And I've been having it preheating since I started working on the batter. And now that I have everything nice and fully incorporated and I haven't overmixed too much at all, we are going to start by prepping and filling our cupcake / muffin pan. So now that we have finished making our batter, I'm going to prep our muffin tins as our oven finishes preheating. So I have just some cupcake liners in our muffin pan, and the recipe says it makes 12, but I always have an extra pan on hand, just in case if I come up with a little extra batter and I have to put it somewhere quick. So I have this here, but I'm going to use some pan cooking spray, and I'm going to spray our liners just lightly. That extra oil helps for the muffin pan to actually stick to the inside, or at least stay level on the inside of the pan, and also helps with releasing the actual paper from the muffin on the inside. So now we're going to do whatever looks appropriate to you. I put bigger bite-sized pieces of strawberry in mine because I know they'll shrink. So maybe 1 to 2 tablespoons of filling, and you want to fill it around 3/4 the way full. So now that we have finished filling our muffin tins with our lemon strawberry streusel muffin batter, we're going to pop these in the oven at our 375-degree oven for around 20 to 25 minutes until a toothpick is inserted into the center and comes out clean. And while these are baking, we're going to make our very easy streusel topping. So while our muffins are baking, halfway through we're going to sprinkle our streusel topping on top of our muffins halfway done when they're baking. But for right now we're going to make it in preparation for when that halfway point comes. And so I have our 4th cup of oats, or granola or oats, and then I have our 4th cup of brown sugar. And I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of margarine or butter. And then I'm going to put this in the microwave at 30-second increments and let this melt down. And then I'm going to add in the cinnamon and the flour. So I'm going to pop this in the microwave on 30-second increments until the butter's melted. So now that we have our butter, our brown sugar, and our granola melted, we're going to add in a tablespoon or 2 of all-purpose flour. I'm going to start with around a tablespoon and a half. And then just like a 1/4 or a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon that we're going to eyeball. And I'm going to mix it together with a fork. And now that I have our streusel topping done, I'm going to sprinkle these on top of the muffins at their halfway point and then put them back into finished baking for another 10 minutes to cap off that 20 to 25 minute mark. So I will see you guys when we have our finished streusel muffins. Here is our finished lemon and strawberry streusel muffins, and they're fresh out of the oven. They look fantastic. I already tasted one. So thank you guys for joining me in another episode of Owen's Treats. I hope you guys make this recipe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!